The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources will allow hunters to kill 200 wolves in the last week of February, even as the state appeals a judge's order requiring the winter hunting season. The DNR will issue up to 4,000 permits based on the recommended quota of 200 wolves. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, Joe Biden coming to town. It's Election Day Tuesday. Man, are you excited?
Well, I'm excited. It's above negative degrees outside. That's fun. I'm excited because here in great city of Milwaukee, in the great state of Wisconsin, the lake effect snow has stopped and the sun wants to peek out. So that, the little things in life excite me, Crudy. Joe Biden coming to town, a little anticlimactic. I didn't get the invite, and I'm not the one invited to the town hall. But it would be good to, hear the administration specifically focus on some of these legislative needs. And I guess it's governance, and that excites me.
Joe Biden has been our president for going on about 30 days, and this will be his first official trip outside Washington, D.C. Joe Biden coming to sell his COVID-19 relief bill on a CNN town hall featuring Milwaukee, held in Wilmington, Delaware.
No, it's at the Pabst Theater, man.
Are you sure? Because that's what they said. The DNC was coming, and then Joe held it in Wilmington, Delaware.
Yeah. I'm still a little salty about all that. I hope they shoveled downtown. It's kind of crazy here in Milwaukee, but I fully expect that the president will be here tonight to kick this thing off.
Now, Dominic, Mitchell International Airport reporting 22 inches of fresh snow. That's where Biden will fly in. Yeah.
Damn.
That's 22 inches overnight. That's the lake effect. Are we Lake Awanga, man? Are we Buffalo, New York now?
Usually it's on the other side of the lake. But it was, if there's going to be a beauty contest as far as snow is concerned, at this lake effect, it's spectacular. It is picturesque. Unfortunately, we're living in it. But the good news is, hell, we're used to it. Sorry, Texas. Welcome to our world.
Tragedy across the South. People are dying.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean,
the electrical grids are failing. And I would point out, when the guano hits the fan, you don't really want a Republican in charge. Bad stuff happens. I'm just saying, look at Texas. Real quick, Dominic, the big town hall broadcast on CNN, invited, according to CNN, they've invited Democrats. They've invited Republicans. They've invited independents. No love for the Devil's Advocates, of course. But my question, is this something of a unity healing tour? Will he bring them all along? And the question really isn't, can you get, rank and file Republicans or independents or people out there on Main Street? Yeah, they need help. They want coronavirus help. They want stimulus.
Yeah.
The real question is, can you convince Senate Republicans to come along? And of course, that's going to be a tough sell.
It'd be great to have Senate Republican support. But for what? Most of them, it can go to hell. I just saw their vote on the insurrection, so I question their judgment to begin with. And ultimately, they don't need them. So I'm down. I think the unity, and maybe it was Psaki who said recently, the administration, Joe Biden's request and longing for unity doesn't mean one political party. Now, we as a people certainly need to come together, fellow citizens in this country. Yeah, we should let some of these bygones be bygones, but I'm not going to, do a kumbaya with Nazis. But above and beyond that, if you're just a general Republican, I have no ill will towards you. If you're an insurrectionist, Nazi, white supremacist bastard, yeah, I have some problems with you. But generally speaking, the unity is for us. The political parties, this battle's been going on for a long time. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it a lot. Get rid of the filibuster. If the Republicans want to come along, great. If not, they can go pound sand.
Dominic, I think perhaps the only tougher sell than getting some of these Senate Republicans to do the right thing by the American people, trying to get the president to come to Milwaukee in February during a polar vortex with 22 inches of fresh lake effect snow. Welcome to Milwaukee, Joe Biden.
Right. Yes, it is. It's pretty typical here. So at least the president, this administration, they'll get a good sense of why they should have really come for the DNC convention this summer, not so much in February.
I'm voting for Miami next time. DNC in Miami. I'll go back to Miami any day. I'd go back today. Dominic Luker on the board, and then Jimmy K joins us later. Apparently, Fancy Brian snowed in. He better be back tomorrow. We'll put him down as an unexcused absence. What, 22 inches of snow are going to keep you in the driveway?
Oh, man, what a mess.
Get the shovel and start digging. So we got a fine show with or without Fancy. We've got Jeff Mandell. He's the founder, president, and lead counsel, Law Forward. And there's a question about the alternative electors here in the state of Wisconsin, Dom.
The fraudulent electors? What?
Jeff Mandell from Law Forward is going to tell us all about it at 2:30 Central Time. And also an old favorite of ours, Dominic, Dale Schultz, a former Republican Wisconsin Senate leader, twice elected majority leader, now out of the Wisconsin Senate. But Dale's going to catch up with us in the 4:00 happy hour. And then Laura Ford Harris, she is with the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. They got a big event this weekend. We're going to help them preview it. That's all coming up in the happier 4:00 happy hour. And Joe Biden going off at 8:00, the Assembly in session, the Senate in session, the president, the governor of the great state of Wisconsin giving his budget address at 7:00. I'm going to miss that as well, Dom. And the only people attending
I want to hear
Evers' budgetary address,
yeah,
Republicans. Democrats are not going to be in the room. He is going to address the Senate, the Assembly chambers, the bigger of the two houses. And Republicans will attend, probably masklessly, because they're mask optional over there. And the governor, who has had at least one coronavirus vaccine shot, he will give the speech. But the Democrats will be attending virtually.
As will I.
So no friends in the room.
So those pregnant pauses for applause, probably not going to happen.
Don't leave a lot of blanks for applause lines in the speech tonight.
Come on, you got someone working the board? I mean, someone can drop some applause lines here, can't you? This is how we do it now.
So Evers going off at 7:00. We've got Busted Pencils playing out at 7:00. Live Dr. Tim Slecker at that time. So we'll take our normally scheduled programming. And then Joe Biden going off at 8:00 tonight. That's a CNN event. I didn't get broadcast rights. I didn't get invited to the big event. I would have liked to broadcast it, but you do what you can. So I'll watch it along with the rest of you. Probably. I'm not busy washing my hair.
Well, that doesn't take you long, Curdy. It's not just the Republicans, and in some of the articles highlighting, the president's efforts coming to Wisconsin, trying to sell, this package, of course, and we talked about it yesterday, the minimum wage, and the senators from West Virginia and Arizona, I believe, apparently have some issues with that, Michael. We've talked about this. And again, when we talk, will any Republicans come along on this bill? And I would certainly hope so.
You're talking about the broader reconciliation COVID-19 package.
Yes. But as this issue with the minimum wage comes up, obviously there's a couple of Democrats, Manchin specifically, and Sinema, who have expressed that, $15 is just too much. So, I mean, that is a concern, right? You don't really have any to lose. And if those folks are going to decide to vote against that, well, then you're going to need a couple Republicans.
You know what? That's when you get, if you're Joe Biden, that's when you take Joe Manchin and send him out to the woodshed.
Yes.
You call them up personally and you exert pressure. You cajole them. You bring them to your will. Because look at it right now. And we've talked about this quite a bit of late, Tom. The vote to acquit Donald Trump tells you do not have fair dance partners. You're not going to find some sort of bipartisan kumbaya unity on helping the American people. Republicans are done governing. Joe Biden's the president now. They're done. They never knew how, but they're done now. So let's stop pretending. It is going to be time to eradicate the filibuster in no time at all. And we're going to see it immediately. And here's the one. What did they talk about? House Bill 1, HR 1, SB 1 wasn't the first most important bill, cleaning up the electoral process.
Yeah.
Do you know there are about 100 legislative pieces across the nation being put forth by Republicans to further suppress the vote, to further diminish the ability, especially of Democratic voters, to get to the polls? Because if it's a fair election, they lose.
And why are they pushing these 100 plus 120 some odd bills? Well, their justification for it, of course, is the big lie.
The fraud they've already perpetrated
to justify their further voter suppression actions.
Well, the loss, the electoral loss of Donald Trump, that's all the justification they need. Because when people vote, Republicans lose. And we, the Democrats, we need to stand up and start fighting right now, Don. The fact that we did not stand up more strongly and force witnesses. The first capitulation. Democrats, we can't afford to capitulate to these Republicans on any topic. I'm sick of my wife calling this party a bunch of wussies. And I'm sick of this party acting like a bunch of wussies. They need to start standing up right now. And Joe Biden, you're the boss. You got the bully pulpit. Carry a big stick if necessary, sir. Get your team in line and eliminate the senatorial filibuster and start passing some meaningful legislation. You got 2 years, maybe 2 years, Democrats, to start solving some problems for this country, or we're going to get another round of crazy-ass Republican governance and perhaps another more competent fascist in charge. And I don't like that. Joe Biden coming to town. I'm not invited. I'm a little salty. Here's the good news. The temperature has risen to the point where my saltiness will now start melting the snow again.
Yeah.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
So, do you come to Milwaukee often?
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. And get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at Lutema.com.
We did it. All across this nation, voters like you turned out in record numbers to elect Joe Biden. Now, it's time to come together to address the issue that matter most, tackling climate change, expanding access to healthcare, ensuring racial justice, and putting Americans back to work. Text ACT to 668366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Hold.moveon.org not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to darnwi.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
We've got U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. Ron, in all seriousness, if this was Barack Obama, you'd be screaming, "Stormy, stormy, stormy," from the rooftops.
You're too young to understand this excuse. This would be the Sergeant Schultz answer. I know nothing.
But as the chair of the HISGAC, Sir, Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee, you could get to the bottom of this, could you not, Ron?
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Making radio great again. The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open for your take today at 844-967-2789.
I got to admit, Tom, occasionally it gets a smidge personal, just a skosh.
Yeah.
I get offended occasionally. You know, I'd like to play a bigger part in supporting Joe Biden's big appearance here in the great state of Wisconsin. You know, Joe, we got time. 844-967-2789. You can join us during the big live Devil's Advocates radio show. Some people say greatest radio show ever. Mostly
and
us.
Those people would be right. Jeff Mandell, founder, president, and lead counsel for Law Forward, going to join us at the bottom of the hour. I have a couple of callers right now. Once again, 844-96-PARTY. Kurt from Madison, you will be first today. Happy days. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Kurt.
Yeah, hi, guys. Good thing I'm not living on the great city coastline of Milwaukee as they get bombarded with lake effect snow. I grew up on the lake, and man, I remember those days. I'm Tom Hartman, not a second to your show, hands down. But one of the callers...
well said, sir. But
well
we,
said.
We like
we
Tom.
Appreciate that,
Please
Kurt.
continue.
All right, thanks for the call, man.
One of the callers that I really enjoy listening to when he calls in is Paul from Washington, and he nailed it. We should now call at least the representatives on the Hill that are Republican the Confederate Party. They always call us Democrat. Let's call them the Confederate Party. That's what they are doing. Every step they have taken is in lockstep to what this country has gone through before. They're attempting to do it again. And Dom, you're right. And Krut, you're right. This party, and I blame Schumer, every time I even think of him, I see him drop his glasses to the end of his nose and do this pontificated talk. We need people that understand that the gloves are off. It's time to start beating the crap out of them and teach them a lesson. I'm tired of being Charlie Brown.
Kurt, have you ever seen
start acting?
Republicans don't give a damn about bipartisanship in any of their actions. They never try to bring us along. They never try to bring along Schumer and the Democrats. Historically speaking, not in most of my lifetime, I haven't seen a Republican that gave a damn about the public's perception of them or playing nice or capitulating to the other side. It's only us Democrats. I mean, we're afraid of our own shadows, Kurt.
Well, Tom Hartman laid it out best. Someone called in, was complaining about, what Biden has done so far. And the reality is, if you look at the policies when we did get something done, FDR, we brought electricity to rural areas. We brought water, telecommunications. I mean, these are all the things we've done always to support the common wealth of this country. And then you got Moscow Mitch is doing everything. He's he works for oligarchs. He doesn't care about the Constitution. He clearly does not. And every action he makes supports what the oligarchs want, is opening up more reserves for pumping petroleum and gases out of the ground, doing nothing to fix the infrastructure. They want to crash the system. They want to go back to lords and serfs. I'm convinced of it. And the Democrats need to wake the hell up and start saying, you know what? You guys have lied to us nonstop. We're going to just do what we want to do, and you're going to find out what that's like. because you've been doing it to us for 50 years. And that's what we should do.
Well, apparently,
From hell or high water.
if you want to get the attention, at least of Democrats, you got to charge some mounds. You got to arm up, pitchforks and torches time at the Capitol.
Oh, come on. Kurt, I appreciate your call. And when we say, beat them, certainly we're talking rhetorically. We're not talking about physical violence here, but fight. Yes, we must fight. Absolutely. Because, what would happen when the Republicans were in this position? Well, they just jam it down your throat, right? And if you believe in what you are trying to do, if you believe that the legislation and the policies that you're trying to enact through this new Biden administration are going to be good for the country, then you should absolutely stand on that, scream it from the rooftops and slam it through any way you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, when it is good for the country, that's going to help not only the country, obviously, but your political futures as well.
If we don't get rid of the filibuster, you will not see any meaningful election reform. Republicans on a state-by-state basis, once again, will go out there and seek to suppress Democratic voters, and they're going to move the goalpost to the point where it won't even matter. Right now, this is our last best effort to take back democracy, because they're going to move the ring to the point where Democrats aren't going to have any cycles that we can win over the suppression. Do it now, Dems. Fight now. Fight like hell. Joe Biden, start twisting some arms, buddy. Take him out behind the shed.
844-967-2789. At least do a push-up contest. Let's go, Paul. You are up. Welcome, sir. What do you got today?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Devils. Thanks for taking my call. You're 100% correct. The Republicans will not work with the Democrats. Not going to happen. If you have to take Joe out back and say, hey, you're either a Democrat or you're not. Also, in this state, I got to be careful because I'll lose my grip on this one. I've got to pay Republican lawyers to gerrymander me.
Again, for another decade. To the point where your will is irrelevant. The will of voters in the state of Wisconsin is completely irrelevant because the cake is so baked with all the predetermined outcomes. I mean, that's the way Republicans love it, Paul. Just be quiet and fall in line, sir.
One more, Andy from Beaver Dam. We can give you 60 seconds. What do you got for us?
Well, we have a gentleman named Mark Bourne up here that figures that Medicaid is welfare, because, we don't want to have any more welfare. We can't accept that money from the federal government because, hey, it's going to be, just going to add more to whatever. I don't know. Republicans on the national and the local, on the state scene are both, all of them are just, sticking to their guns and holding on, I don't know. It's pretty sad.
Well, Andy, Mark Bourne said that. He is the Joint Finance Committee co-chair. He sets the budgetary policy. 12 Republicans, 4 Democrats, they get to set the policy, hand it back to the governor. And he said, don't want to have a massive expansion of the welfare state. Set it during a pandemic. Come back with us. Jeff Mandell, Forward Law. Law Forward. My bad.
Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue.
I will fight you.
Those are
It's no lie.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM. And that's pretty cool.
Hey, Dom, is your carpeting starting to have a little bit of a funk to it?
That's a bit of a personal question, Crudy.
No, I know this is really busy time for one of our sponsors, Zero Res of Madison. People want a cleaner, healthier home.
You mean spending the entire quarantine locked in with bacteria and allergens isn't healthy? Who knew?
You want to get it professionally cleaned well before it gets funky. Even if you vacuum frequently,
I vacuum a lot.
You still need to get it professionally cleaned. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of this world. Staying home for dinner tonight? No problem. Place an order for pickup or delivery at lazyoaflounge.com. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, Madison. Order online at lazyoaflounge.com.
Tragedies from the cold in Texas. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Some 4 million homes and businesses in Texas are without electricity, with the temperatures in the single digits. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner.
For people who are without power, they don't care who's in control, who's in charge. They don't care. The only thing people want is that they want the heat in their homes.
People have been trying dangerous ways to heat their homes and apartments. A woman and a child died in their Houston home that had no heat, the car running in the attached garage. Fire Chief Samuel Pena.
We had 56 fire calls over the last 24 hours, and we responded to over 90 calls for carbon monoxide poisoning.
A fire official in a Houston suburb says 3 young children and their grandmother died in a house fire early this morning as the family was using the fireplace to stay warm after the power had been out for more than 8 hours. I'm Tim McGuire.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it with new ZQL Night Pain. Restful sleep, now with powerful pain relief. ZQL Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZQL Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, February 16th. It is Election Day in Wisconsin. Polls are open until 8 p.m. this evening. There is one statewide race on the ballot, the race for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, along with a variety of local elections depending on where you live. Governor Tony Evers will give his 2021-2023 budget address this evening at 7 p.m. The address will be virtual and will include a variety of economic investment proposals to assist the state in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. President Joe Biden is coming to Milwaukee tonight for a town hall forum held by CNN at the Pabst Theater, airing at 8 p.m. Forecast today of mostly cloudy skies with winds up to 10 miles an hour. High today of 15 degrees, low of -8 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Kreutz are the devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. A snowy Tuesday in the great state of Wisconsin. Joe Biden coming to town, 22 inches at the airport. And we're doing a little radio show in the meantime. Dom, we're expecting a fine guest, Jeff Mandell from Law Forward. When he arrives, he'll join us on the airwaves. But in the meantime, let's talk about an article, this one published at the Wisconsin Examiner. The voter fraud you didn't hear about. Wisconsin's Electoral College imposters. And for those listening outside the great state of Wisconsin, let's set the stage for just a moment, Dom. We have some of the most seditious state lawmakers in this nation. 15 of them specifically, I believe 14 Assembly Republicans and 1 state senator wrote letters on January 5th, sent them off to Mike Pence, the vice president of the United States. And what they want to do, Dom, they wanted to delay or overturn the election of Joe Biden and the Electoral College results thereof. And apparently there was a alternative slate of electors that the Republicans voted to send despite the fact Joe Biden won the great state of Wisconsin. So is this our guest? So we'll have the guest momentarily. And that's where we leave off, Dom. And I would point out one more thing. Here in the great state of Wisconsin, the election of Joe Biden had to go all the way up to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It was only upheld there by a 4-3 vote. Right. I'm telling you, man, we got the most seditious Republicans in the nation. Let's welcome a fine guest to the big show. He is Jeff Mandell, founder, president, lead counsel, law forward. Jeff, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, sir, let's talk about the seditious Wisconsin Republicans. And specifically, let's start with the alternative slate of electors, the seditious 10. What's your perspective on this, sir? You think they effectively lied and should be held culpable in some way? What would that look like, Jeff?
Well, it's clear to us that what they did is not part of a peaceful transition of power and is not consistent with Wisconsin law. We know that since the founding of the state of Wisconsin, Wisconsin has given its presidential electors to the candidate who wins the popular vote in Wisconsin. And here, these are folks who were pledged to support a candidate or candidates who did not win the popular vote, and they nonetheless took it upon themselves to meet and to purport to send Wisconsin's electoral votes to Congress for these candidates who had lost the vote. What we've asked is we have asked for investigations into what this means as a matter of Wisconsin law. We've asked the district attorney in Milwaukee County to undertake an investigation of whether there are any criminal violations. And we've suggested some statutes that it appears to us these folks have violated. And we've asked the Wisconsin Elections Commission to undertake whether there are violations of civil law and the election code, and to clarify so that there's never any doubt in the future and this never happens again.
Jeff, do you see this along the lines of fraud or conspiracy legally? What do you think these people are guilty of, sir?
Well, it looks to us like the documents that they created and sent to Congress are forgeries. They are purporting to be official government documents that they are not. It looks to us like these folks have falsely assumed to act as public officers and have engaged in misconduct by pretending to be in a public office. And then, as you note, because there are 10 of them, we think that there is likely a conspiracy here, that each individual might also be a party to a crime, and that there are attempts here because, of course, ultimately Congress did not accept the work that these folks did. That doesn't mean that they didn't attempt to fraudulently convey or to steal essentially Wisconsin's electoral votes. So there are lots of possibilities, and I am not a criminal lawyer. It's one of the reasons we specifically asked the district attorney's office to look into this. There may well be other things that are at play here.
Jeff, we used to have retired judges that oversaw our elections. And you talk about the Wisconsin Elections Commission. This is effectively a partisan board, a stalemated board, a 3-3 board. And sir, my memory is not always perfect, but Jeff, to my memory, wasn't one of the Wisconsin Elections Commissioners one of the Republicans amongst the 10 people that were these false electors, sir? Or do I get that part wrong?
Nope, you've got it right. Commissioner Spindell, who is one of the Republican appointees to the Wisconsin Elections Commission, also served as a Republican elector in 2020 and was one of the 10 who met at the Capitol and signed these papers. You're also correct that the Elections Commission is a bipartisan, evenly divided board. It often, on issues that have a partisan valence, deadlocks 3-3. That is a feature, not a bug, of how the legislature chose to design it. We used to have, as you note, a government accountability board that was made up of nonpartisan retired judges. And many of us feel that worked very well for a long time, but the legislature was unhappy with it after the John Doe investigations and changed it. So how this will play out, it may well be that the legislature, that the Elections Commission ultimately deadlocks on these issues. Well, we're going to let the process play out. We're going to see what kind of investigation the Elections Commission is able to do, what recommendations are presented to the commission. And when the commission does deadlock, there is always the possibility of taking things up to a court. So we'll keep that possibility in mind, and as we see how the process works.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Jeff Mandell, founder, president, and lead counsel of Law Forward, joining us on the phone. Jeff, thank you for doing so. My understanding, according to the reporting of the Journal Sentinel at the time, about an hour after the Wisconsin Supreme Court affirmed Joe Biden the winner of the election, the Republicans, they got together and put forward their own slate of electors, these 10 electors. But in some regards, I wonder, what's the big deal? I mean, what if Crudy and I and Luke got together and put forward our slate for the Devil's Advocates Party and, did this same kind of exercise? And we're not elected officials, and some of these are certainly political figures, hit, I believe, some of the Republican leaders here in the state of Wisconsin, though not elected specifically, Jeff. What is the damage of just going through this exercise?
Well, I don't think this is just an exercise or just political theater. Remember, when we think about the insurrection that happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, remember that what led to that, right, the occasion for that was that Congress was meeting to count the electoral votes. And there were several states in which there was some dispute, not a genuine dispute, but there were people talking about a dispute about the validity of those electoral votes, and Wisconsin was one of them. And what was the basis for that dispute? The basis for that dispute fundamentally was that there were two different slates of electoral votes that had been sent to Congress. And what many of those insurrectionists wanted was for Vice President Pence to say that he would not accept the valid, lawful electoral votes that were cast in accordance with Wisconsin law and would instead accept this fake slate of votes. So, it's not that we can just write this off as saying it's no big deal. It created the conditions that led to a really serious, scary moment in American history, in which people died at the Capitol.
Jeff, is my memory correct? This alternative slate of fraudulent Republican electors, was that not condoned by the Republican-led legislature? Didn't they give their blessing to these false electors?
I don't know. I certainly don't recall that. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. The legislature wasn't in session, to my knowledge. And one of the things that we talk about in our letter is that the official electors, they met in accord with Wisconsin law. It was an open meeting. It was publicly noticed. It was live streamed on Wisconsin Eye. It was all the things that we expect from a good, transparent government process. Whereas these folks met secretly, sort of in the shadows elsewhere in the Capitol, without telling people, at least the public, in advance what they were going to do. So I'm not aware of there being a huge surge of support from members of the legislature or elsewhere. But that doesn't mean that these folks did not have encouragement or support from grassroots or from others that they know.
Jeff, one other quick question. We had 15 Wisconsin Republicans elected, 14 assembly members, and I believe Senator Andre Jacques sent a letter to Mike Pence on January 5th. I call that a seditious letter. They basically had the same intent as this false slate of electors. Does that letter factor into your investigation, or at least the investigation you would seek, sir?
It doesn't factor into what we're asking about now. We're specifically focused on these 10 folks who really tried to hijack Wisconsin's electoral vote. That is different in kind from those who encouraged the vice president or others to cast aspersions on the free and fair election that we had here in Wisconsin in November. So, it's different in kind from those members of the Wisconsin legislature who wrote to the vice president. It's different in kind from Senator Johnson, who was encouraging in the days leading up to January 6th, the challenge to Wisconsin's votes. But you're onto something that these seem related, that they have something in common. But we're particularly focused today on this issue and this effort to steal the Wisconsin electoral votes, to really disenfranchise the people of Wisconsin and make and have the state's vote the state's participation in selecting the next president, have that done in a way that is counter to the will of the voters in Wisconsin. That's really troubling.
Jeff Mandell, founder, president, and lead counsel, Law Forward, for about 3 more minutes. Jeff, a lot of our audience and certainly around the nation know of the organization Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, a right-wing funded legal apparatus, always got their fingers in, always out pushing legislation for conservatives and the far right. Jeff, is Law Forward the progressive, a liberal response to that? How did Law Forward come about, and what is your intent, sir?
Well, in many ways, it is. Law Forward came about after looking around and recognizing that for a solid decade, conservatives in this state, largely led by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, had their way in the courts and on judicial issues. Wisconsin has been used by conservatives over the last 10 years as its training ground and its testing ground for the most radical ideas on judicial and governance, on judicial policy and governance and constitutional issues of anywhere in the country. Just like 15 or 20 years ago, conservatives used Kansas as their testing ground for their most radical fiscal policies, all of which overwhelmingly failed, by the way, and which the voters of Kansas, even a Republican legislature, ultimately rejected and reversed. We have the same thing happening here in Wisconsin when it comes to issues of governance and government structure and whether our democracy can work. And it's not an accident that conservatives are trying this here in Wisconsin. It's because for a century, Wisconsin stood really as the nation's model for good, transparent governance, for open debate, for compromise and creativity and innovation in public policy. And that's the effort. That's what they're trying to destroy. And it was going unrebutted. And we needed a place, we needed a group of people, we needed to convene the folks who care about democracy in this state and make sure that there was a strategic, prepared, effort to push back. And that's what Law Forward is.
Jeff Mandell, founder, president, lead counsel, Law Forward. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Good luck. Come back with us.
We're going to need
more
it.
Devil's Advocate. We absolutely need a little luck around this joint. Could all start with you. 844-967-2789. You feeling lucky, punk? Are ya? Dial us up.
Are you suggesting that I'm not who I say I am?
Sedition!
This is not normal.
This aggression will not stand, man.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Thanks for the job you do and sure show it in the Supreme Court.
But I just want to thank you guys for your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't get enough credit for this. We've never had a voice ever in this state.
So I think you guys really need to take a bow.
Thanks again for your work. It's really important.
You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
Biden won because of you. Because you stayed in line to vote even when you got tired. Because you knew that your vote is power. Because you understood what was at stake. And because you showed up, we now have the power. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
once again, the American public has some reading to do. A 29-page indictment today. Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class. Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Jeff Mandell, founder, president, Lead Counsel, Law Forward. We'll have him round again real soon. Got to ask you, little buddy, how do you look at Republicans? I know you used to deem yourself as some sort of political independent. Would you call yourself a social liberal, fiscal conservative? And then Trump got elected, and all your ideology kind of got thrown out the window, as far as I can tell.
Sure did. Yeah.
So all that highfalutin, high-minded ideology. Now you're. Is it fair to call you a Democrat? I mean, I know you're not a card-carrying Dem. You don't pay the dues.
I send a little money to the Democratic Party.
Do you?
At this point? I do.
That's more than I could say at this point. I've stopped sending money to the Democratic Party.
And while I'm not one to stereotype, although sometimes it does save some time. The philosophies that the Republicans have claimed over the years are obviously false. It's a lie. It's bunk. They don't believe in fiscal conservatism. They don't believe in democracy, little d, in the sense that I do. They don't believe that we should make voting easy as possible. They don't believe these things. And I just think it's, given how they've just cast everything aside for their cult leader, Donald Trump, most of them anyway, at least those that the elected ones. No, I have some issues. I take big issues with many of the Republicans. Now, rank and file, everybody, people go out there and voting for the R because that's what their parents did, or that's what they think is good for them, or this something that they want. Well, everyone has a right to make up their own mind on who to vote for. But I would challenge a lot of the assertions, and a lot of it, I got to be honest, man, with the white supremacy, the Christian nationalist kind of weird, funky, what the hell cult are these people belonging to, is very problematic. And I don't know if I'm more sensitive to it because of my atheism, or if it's always been like that.
Dominic, Republicans, I used to count myself as friendly to a number of Republicans. I've still got some Republican friends. Sure. I'm down. I can probably count them on a handful these days, but that's still a broader group than Democratic friends at this point. I'm sure it's all of them and not me.
Yeah.
And we are going to have a fine former Republican. Well, I guess he's probably still a Republican. Dale Schultz, twice elected majority leader of the Wisconsin State Senate, going to join us in the 4:00 hour. And we're going to talk about what created this environment here in the state of Wisconsin. In no small part, it was Scott Walker in Act 10, in the dropping of the bomb. And we're now celebrating, air quotes, the 10-year anniversary of really just divide and conquer politics.
But I would also just throw this out there. The Charlie Sykes of the world, back in the day when he was here in Wisconsin.
Whitey bloviator.
Yeah, man. I mean, Walker would call these folks up on right-wing talk radio, and that's how Walker got to be very well known outside of Milwaukee County when he was the executive, right? So, the platform provided to a guy like Walker from guys like Charlie Sykes, who is now apparently, has some reservations about his past.
He claims he's not a Republican anymore.
Oh,
very convenient, Charlie.
He has evolved once again. But people got the right to change their mind. But I don't think it is that also is, I think, plays a huge part, at least here in the state of Wisconsin, for the rise of guys like Scott Walker and Robin Voss.
Well, Charlie Sykes is an opportunist who has changed his stripes a couple times. And I would say Scott Walker was propped up by guys like Charlie Sykes, as you mentioned. 81 right-wing talk radio outfits in the state of Wisconsin. And once upon a time, Scotty Walker thought he was heading for the big time. He's off to run for president. He led in the presidential polls in March of 2015. When we went to Iowa to the Citizens United Freedom Iowa Summit, Scott Walker didn't even do the spin room. Too big time for the spin room.
Yeah, too big shot for that.
Who did the spin room, though, Dom?
Oh, Donald Trump did the spin room for 20 minutes, man.
So Donald Trump was a star that day, and Scott Walker thought he was a star that day. But Scott Walker was really the harbinger of bad things to come. And Alec McGillis, I know I'm playing a little history lesson here, but he writes for the New Republic. We've had him on the show a couple times. Wrote an article back in 2014, and he was very prescient. He knew that Scott Walker was going to fail as a presidential candidate. And in fact, his article was entitled the unelectable whiteness of Scott Walker. Because Scott Walker only had success in the state of Wisconsin by turning an overwhelmingly white rural population against the black people that live in the major cities that just happen to be the Democratic hotbeds, and against the public sector unions, and against the teachers and the working people, and against their own neighbors. But he won elections that way. And, he was governing, Dom. He was out there doing something.
Divide and conquer.
Well, he divided and he conquered, and he set the stage. But right-wing talk radio propped that man up here in the state of Wisconsin when he had to take it on the road, when he didn't have friendly hosts fluffing it up and proving his lie for him. Well, he failed miserably. I mean, by the end there, he was polling 0.0 in September of 2015. He was the front runner in March of 2015 in Iowa, and he was down to 0.0. D's nuts polled better.
That's true.
So anyways, just like to put those things out there for the record in case you haven't been paying attention. Right-wing talk radio can prop up. It's like they've got this messaging platform to help them justify things like gerrymandering. And our prior guest, Jeff Mandell, talked about John Doe. Well, for those listening outside the state of Wisconsin, John Doe was the investigation of the corrupted chief executive, Scott Walker, who broke campaign finance laws, flouted them, coordinated with third-party groups, and did so in direct, basically was breaking the law. So they had to throw out the referees. They had to throw out the John Doe investigations. And they had to change campaign finance laws to codify the illegal corruption that he was committing, not once, but like 2 or 3 times. And Scott Walker, probably in violation of federal campaign finance laws when he ran for president, had a couple of super PACs, Our American Revolution or whatever he called it. He was raising money under a false pretense. And of course, that's just a FEC violation. And they are also a deadlocked bipartisan board the way they want it to be. So no one ever has to pay any ramifications for campaign finance violations. But Scott Walker, he was a crooked bastard. He still is. And he's still hanging out in Wisconsin somewhere.
Oh, crooked. Come on. He tweets out Bible verses. What kind of a crooked person would tweet out Bible verses, Mike?
An avocation for Ronald Reagan constantly. Grow up, man. He was a terrible president, just like Trump. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates radio show. Hardly ever terrible. Mostly chock full of goodness.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring? At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted? Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music, and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch Max Inc. Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. Max Inc. Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG Madison. Always streaming at devilradio927.com.
I'm Tim McGuire. A winter storm and frigid temperatures are blamed for at least 14 deaths across the country, including 3 children and their grandmother who died in a house fire in a Houston suburb early this morning. 3 more people were killed by a tornado that slammed into a coastal resort area of North Carolina late last night. Brunswick County Emergency Services Manager Ed Conroe.
We had very minimal warning.
Conroe says it will take some time to rebuild.
This is going to be take a lot of hard work, effort between cleanup, rebuilding, and getting the families back to a normal state of life.
A strong Arctic air mass remains from the upper Midwest into northern Mexico and parts of the deep south. Parts of Texas shivering through single-digit temperatures and no electricity for 4 million homes and businesses. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner.
People have every right to be frustrated, to be angry. I get it. I understand it, especially for our senior citizens and critical care customers. Families with children.
Texas utilities are expected to restore power to those who have had no electricity for the better part of a day, but they'll have to cut power to others. At a time when nurses and doctors are scrambling for N95 masks and other protective gear during the pandemic, warehouses across the country are packed with supplies. Here's the AP's Jennifer King.
Mary Turner, a COVID-19 intensive care nurse at a hospital outside Minneapolis, says she's still given 1 disposable N95 respirator for her entire shift.
We've had to fight for something this basic.
1 year into the COVID-19 pandemic, Mike Bowen's Texas company, Prestige Ameritech, ramped up production and is churning out 1 million masks every 4 days.
Everyone's saying there's a shortage, yet I am drowning in respirators.
An AP investigation found that a logistical breakdown is due to federal failures over the past year to coordinate supply chains. I'm Jennifer King.
Near the close on Wall Street, the Dow is up about 75, the NASDAQ down 32. This is AP News.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it. With new ZzzQuil Night Pain. Restful sleep, now with powerful pain relief. ZzzQuil Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZzzQuil Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is Brad from Zero Res Carpet Cleaning. If you like a fresh and clean home and you like to save money, now's the best time of year to get your carpets cleaned. January, February, Zero Res is running winter special. Save money and get the best cleaning in Madison. Give us a call, 608-848-9000.
America has chosen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to lead our country. Now it's time to get to work. Time to expand healthcare and tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Time to restore our democracy and unify our nation. It's time to put this administration to work for us. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of this world. Staying home for dinner tonight? No problem. Place an order for pickup or delivery at lazyoaflounge.com. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, Madison. Order online at lazyoaflounge.com.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, February 16th. On Friday, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released a list of guidelines to help schools get back to in-person learning. Last week, the percentage of positive tests in Dane County was in the low transmission range, where K through 12 could all open for full in-person instruction with mitigation strategies in place. But new cases over the last week put Dane County into the high transmission category, where the CDC recommends elementary students to stay in a hybrid model and middle and high schoolers to remain virtual. The Public Service Commission announced Monday that all 609 regulated electric, gas, and water utilities in the state are now required to report on the diversity of their workforces and suppliers, as well as the portion of household income their customers spend on energy. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's an election day in the great state of Wisconsin. It's the budget address day for the governor of the great state of Wisconsin. And Joe Biden coming to Milwaukee a little bit later this evening, according to CNN, 4 hours, 53 minutes. They've got a countdown to the Joe Biden televised town hall from Milwaukee. That's where you're at today, Dom. I'm here in Madison. We got a lot less snow, like 22 inches at the airport in Milwaukee overnight. Good luck with that, Joe.
Welcome, Joe.
I wonder if Senator Ron Johnson will be there to meet the president at the airport.
Maybe meet him out on the tarmac. I don't think so. Ron's been pretty busy lately making the rounds on right-wing talk radio.
Well, as he's known affectionately around here, our dumb senator's been making the rounds, Dom. Righty-whitey talk radio, as mentioned, went on with Wagner, Weber. They're all kind of the same awful righty-whitey morning host. But I noticed this headline over at the Raw story, incredibly stupid. Ron Johnson ripped by Morning Joe for new attempt to downplay the Capitol insurrection. Now, we got a little bit of sound to play overnight, and we talked about this story yesterday. But in case you don't listen to the whitey-righty talkers down the dial, or you're listening to us from outside the greater Wisconsin area, we've got some sound of our dumb senator, Ron Johnson, on whitey-righty talk radio yesterday when he said some really smart things. Let's play.
He was talking, and I guess when you're being interviewed by radio hosts, you have to have words come out of your mouth. But Ron Johnson continues to swirl in this festering QAnon Trump world, man. It is really something to behold.
I'm sure he got lots of pushback from the host. Can I fluff it up for you, Senator? Improve your lie. What are rules? Here he is your friend and mine, Ron Johnson, great state of Wisconsin, on Righty Whitey Talk Radio yesterday. Jimmy K's on now. Need your help. Cut one.
Like an armed insurrection to me. I mean, armed, when you hear of armed, don't you think of firearms? Here's questions I would have liked to ask. How many firearms were confiscated? How many shots were fired? I'm only aware of one.
Well, if you're only aware of one, then let's completely discount the Molotov cocktails and the bombs found at both the RNC and the DNC that day, and the tasers and those that weaponized other things.
Like American flags, or you could literally discount the dozens of guns that were confiscated. You could discount the thousands of rounds of ammunition that were confiscated. But yeah, according to Ron Johnson, it didn't seem like much of an armed insurrection to me.
Well, Dominic, when they show up at your house with pitchforks and torches, are you there to quibble because you don't see enough sidearms? Right. And how many of the insurrectionists were carrying guns, just concealed carrying? I'd say the great majority of them, probably. I don't know for sure. They weren't my friends, Ron. A little bit more.
Nor were they arrested and detained for the very actions they were doing at the time. A little more Ron Johnson.
There should have been some stopping and frisking going on that day.
You think? Let's do cut number 2, if you would please, Jimmy K.
If that was a planned armed insurrection, man, you're really a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, they were a bunch of idiots.
That we can agree on, Ron. I mean, just because not everybody was armed to the teeth with firearms doesn't mean that they were not armed, doesn't mean that it was not an insurrection. But, if Rojo didn't see it with his own eyes, I know nothing.
You know what Rojo claimed, and I heard longer versions of some of these sound bites. Brianna Keeler was playing it on CNN before. Well, when Ron was in his office watching the television, many of the insurrectionists at that moment in history, well, they were walking between the velvet ropes.
Yeah, we have that.
They were staying well, let's play it for the people then.
Yeah, cut 3.
I'm sitting back in my office watching video of the armed insurrectionists staying within the lines inside the Capitol. I'm seeing a bunch of people milling about. It wasn't until I really saw the video in the trial that you really saw what was happening and how officers got injured.
Hundreds injured, some killed, Ron, and you didn't see it, so good thing you were at the trial that day, right, Ron? I mean, I know you had to skip out here and there, but just because you did not observe it didn't mean it did not happen. It was happening that day. Let me give you a little hint, Ron. They went outside the velvet rope line.
Perhaps he was only watching the coverage on Foxy News.
Yeah, right. One more from the senator from the great state of Wisconsin. More Ron Johnson, not less. Cut 4.
To call that an armed insurrection, it was the most pitiful armed insurrection anybody could ever possibly imagine. I mean, the one guy in the Senate chambers there, he had plastic wrist ties. What was he expected to do? Literally go up to Mike Pence and capture him?
Yes.
Yes.
Hang Mike Pence was the chant they were chanting in the Capitol. They brought their own 4x4 constructed gallows. And I don't know, Dom, maybe Ron's never been arrested, but I've been arrested. You know what they put me in? Plastic zip cuffs. Just like the insurrectionists brought to the Capitol in case they bumped into Nancy Pelosi or, let's say, Mike Pence.
So they were armed, and some with firearms and many more with other type of weapons. And yes, they were a bunch of idiots. And yes, they were milling around until they weren't, until you saw the video during the trial, Ron. Thankfully, there was a trial, right? You got to see how violent the mob really was. And yes, in fact, the dude was going to try to find Mike Pence and handcuff him and drag him out. And if you're going to believe what the crowd was saying, hang Mike Pence.
Well, Dom, I've got my own speculation. Maybe Ron's just into bondage. He thought he thought the insurrectionists would give Nancy Pelosi a safe word. Watermelon or celery, maybe.
Now it's all about what did Nancy Pelosi know and when did she know it, right? This is now, and we can see this evolving over time. Again, we look at this, we watch this and listen to this and comment on this stuff every single day. So you can see how these little seeds of disinformation and misinformation and lies and propaganda. You're wondering what Nancy Pelosi knew and when she knew it, Ron? Why don't you ask the Pentagon? Why don't you ask your former president, Trump? What were they doing? What were their efforts?
Well, Trump was tweeting at Mike Pence during the insurrection after he spoke with newly elected Senator Tupperville, and Tupperville told him Pence had just been taken from the room to shelter, for his own personal safety.
Yeah, I gotta go too. Sorry, President Trump. And he hangs up. And as you mentioned, Trump goes out and tweets something to the effect that Mike Pence didn't have the courage. And on a side note, where the hell's Mike Pence been? Really? You're gonna
Couch
sit
surfing in
back?
Indiana.
Yeah.
Doing a
safe
podcast.
House to safe house? Come on, man. Is really? I mean, you keep your mouth shut this whole time. You had a crowd at the Capitol wanting to hang you. I mean,
no wonder why the guy's staying low key, staying below the radar. If you had people that wanted to hang your ass,
come on,
I would be varying my routine on a daily basis.
You stand up and you denounce it. You challenge it. You push back. You don't acquiesce to the riotous mob. Are you freaking kidding me? You're justifying everything they're doing with your silence.
Well, let's get back to Ron Johnson for a minute.
Okay.
This Raw Story piece. Senator Ron Johnson was battered by the co-host on MSNBC's Morning Joe on Tuesday morning after he used a radio interview to downplay the January 6th Capitol insurrection, saying it wasn't as violent as many claimed. In the interview on Righty Whitey Talk Radio in Wisconsin, Johnson claimed, "This didn't seem like an armed insurrection to me. When you hear the words armed, don't you think of firearms? ? Here's the questions I would have liked to have asked. How many firearms were confiscated? How many shots were fired?" Then he added, if that was a planned armed insurrection, man, you really have a bunch of idiots. Well, that part I agree with, Ron. His comments disgusted both Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, with Brzezinski calling the Republican senator incredibly stupid. And that's a direct quote, Tom. After noting that weapons were confiscated and that several pro-Trump writers have been charged with weapons violations, is that the game plan? Is that where they end up after all of this is over? Co-host Scarborough inserted, pretending this did not happen. We have the video of police officers being beaten, some within inches of their lives, beaten with an American flag. We have stories of law enforcement officers laying on the ground while Trump terrorists were berating them and then thinking to themselves that they had 4 children and wondering if they would ever see their children again. We heard the chants. We saw the nooses. We heard the terrorists scream, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." We saw them destroying the Capitol and defacing it in every way, he continued. We've seen the 3 cops, the 3 law enforcement officers, the faces of those who died following the attacks, too so traumatized that American terrorists would storm the Capitol that they took their own lives. This is a mob that may just have killed Ron Johnson or any member of the House or Senate they saw that day, he added. So I just wonder, are there Republicans feverishly trying to reframe the political party, Mika? I'm just wondering if Mitch McConnell's vision of the Republican Party moving forward is Ron Johnson's vision of the Republican Party. Because you can use Mitch McConnell's own words against Ron Johnson and prove that Ron Johnson is lying to the people of America. Ron Johnson is not worthy to be a United States Senator. My question of you, sir, when you put him back on the show?
Ron, they really haven't been replying to my outreaches, and so I expect he will not be coming back on the show.
I heard you emailed him, dude.
I text this guy, dude. That was it. And I sent a link to the Raw story about Ron Johnson. I don't think that was an insurrection, dude. Are you freaking kidding me? No, I just said, dude. You get the point.
Whether or not Ron comes back on this program, A, depends on whether or not Ron thinks he's running for re-election. Perhaps that's yet to be decided. And B, whether we invite his ass. And I'm less clear that we ever should. Come back with us. More Devils. You're all invited back.
The Devil's Advocates. Ass, grass, or cash. Nobody rides for free.
Santa, what if the kids have unrealistic requests? Like they want a dog for Christmas, and you know the parents don't want to get another dog for Christmas.
Actually, Santa doesn't carry live animals, and there's a reason for that. At 36,000 feet, a live animal and a little wind current doesn't make a pretty sight.
I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly.
Yeah, but puppies can't.
We did it. All across this nation, voters like you turned out in record numbers to elect Joe Biden. Now, it's time to come together to address the issue that matter most, tackling climate change, expanding access to healthcare, ensuring racial justice, and putting Americans back to work. Text ACT to 668366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Pulled.moveon.org not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK, that's 608-819-8255, or go to DARNWI.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yosemites.
Because freedom. The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Going back to the phones in just a moment. Call us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic wanted to talk about Rep. Adam Kinzinger, a Republican that voted for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Got sort of a love letter from the family. Want to read this into the record, at least in brief. Rep. Adam Kinzinger, who has emerged as one of former President Trump's most outspoken GOP detractors, opened up about being disowned by members of his own family. The six-term congressman told the New York Times that 11 members of his family sent him a handwritten 2-page note after he called for removing Trump from office over the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Here's a quote from the letter. Apparently how it began. Oh my, what a disappointment you are to us and to God.
What? How do they know what God's disappointed in? Have you met Crudy?
Well, Dom, it gets better, and perhaps we're referenced here in the next paragraph. Its writer also accused him of working with the Devil's Army.
Hey!
That's our team. That's our listeners, Tom, which includes Democrats and the fake news media. Check, check. Here, again, is from the letter from the family. We thought that you were smart, in quotes, enough to see how the left is brainwashing many so-called good people, including yourself and many GOP members. The letter continued. You have even fallen for their socialism ideals. So sad. I mean, if that is truly the case, if Kinzinger was suddenly a socialist, his crime would be what? Trying to give them stuff. Use the commons to benefit his family and other people. What would be the crime in that? I read on briefly. Again, from the letter, the family to Kinzinger, it is now most embarrassing to us that we are related to you, they wrote. You have embarrassed the Kinzinger family name. Kinzinger's cousin, Karen Otto, said in an interview with the Times that she paid $7 to send it by certified mail to the lawmaker's father. She also sent copies to members of Illinois' congressional delegation. I want Adam to be shunned, Otto told the newspaper. Kinzinger said the family members who sent the letter suffered from brainwashing from conservative churches.
Yes, they do.
Here's what he said. I hold nothing against them, but I have zero desire or feel the need to reach out and repair that. That is 100% on them to reach out and repair. And quite honestly, I don't care if they do or not. Kinzinger has been making national headlines amid his battle against what he calls Trumpism in the Republican Party. He launched a new PAC, and he plans to target two of Trump's most ardent defenders in the lower chambers, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, a Florida man. That's enough.
Just a couple paragraphs from this on the same topic from the New York Times. As to the future of the party, Kinzinger said he will know by the end of summer whether he can remain a Republican for the long term or whether he will be motivated to change his party affiliation if it becomes clear to him that Mr. Trump allies have become a permanent majority. The party's sick right now, he said. It's one thing if the party was accepting of different views, but it's become this massive litmus test on everything. So it's a possibility down the road, but it's certainly not my intention, and I'm going to fight like hell to save it, the party, first.
Good luck with that.
Brainwashed conservative churches.
Don't forget Brady Whitey Talk Radio.
I mean, again, I think this whole Trump thing, this evangelical white Christian nationalism thing is a common theme thread throughout this entire incident. We got some callers. Let's get to them. 844-967-2789. Joe from Madison, you are next. Thank you, Joe. What do you got today?
Hey, Joe.
Well, always dispiriting to see how well Senator Johnson represents our state. The embarrassment grows every day. I'd remind your listeners in Minnesota that, of course, the senator was one of the group that went to Moscow on July 4th in 2018 and anxious to meet with Putin, but wasn't able to do that, had to meet with some of the lesser dignitaries in the Russian establishment.
Well, he was also up to his eyeballs in the pressuring of the Ukrainian president Zelensky as well, and then voted to acquit Trump.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And I would wonder, Ron talks about how he was in his office and it didn't seem like an insurrection to him. It was supposed to be a joint session of the Senate and the House. I guess I'm kind of curious why he was in his office. There are other senators that talked about being on the floor and not realizing how close, Murkowski, for example, was talking about not realizing how close the rioters were, the insurrectionists were. Where was Ron? I think that's a really good question. He says he's in his office, and I'm curious why that would be. Is it because of COVID restrictions, or he just didn't get around to getting there, or was the door locked? Where was Ron? I think is a really good question. And I think the other question is, why say it now? Why didn't he say that, on January 7th? Why now is he talking about it as a weak-kneed insurrection?
Because Trump's been acquitted now.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? A month later, he decides that there's a different name for it. Whereas, I think that it's important to note that your guest yesterday, Matt Rothschild, described it I recall this, he described it as a fascist coup rather than an insurrection. He said, be careful how you describe it. I would throw into the mix that Charlie Pierce has described this entity as a hunting party. They were hunting for Pelosi. They were hunting for Pence. And that is very direct and speaks to presidential line of succession. They didn't want just anybody. And the fact that Joe can't figure that out.
Yeah, but Ron's got to know. I mean, when he says, well, what does he think he's going to do when he catches up to Mike Pence with those zip ties? Capture him? Well, yeah. I mean, what do you think they was going to do, Ron? What do you think the whole point of this thing was?
It's pathetic. It's very sad, and I wish we were represented by somebody that just had a little bit more upstairs than this. This is kind of embarrassing for all of us. We apologize, everyone. We apologize.
We apologize, world. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate your call.
One other small thing to apologize for. We've been to Ron Johnson's office. It is in the Senate office building. It's enormous. He's got like 40 staffers, and Ron's had us over. We partied it up with Ron during the inauguration period of Donald J. Trump. He was a different sort of guy then.
That was the Trump honeymoon. Now it's the Biden honeymoon. He's not nearly as happy or normal or sane anymore.
Well, I can answer Joe's question. Ron didn't want to witness the Biden electoral victory. Easy for me to say. Come back with us.
Taking on Righty Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from Cross Plains to Cottage Grove. Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Biden won because of you. Because you stayed in line to vote even when you got tired. Because you knew that your vote is power. Because you understood what was at stake. And because you showed up, we now have the power. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never...
Update. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The Biden administration says it will increase the number of coronavirus vaccines being shipped to the states.
We're increasing the vaccine supply to 13.5 million doses per week that will go out to states. This is a 57% increase from the amount states received when the president was inaugurated. So since then, obviously, we have announced a couple of increases over the course of time.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki says they will also increase doses being sent to pharmacies taking part in the vaccination effort. The winter storm that hit the Southeast, including FedEx and UPS shipping hubs in Memphis and Louisville, will delay some of the vaccine shipments. The Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University says more than 486,000 people have died of the pandemic in this country. New cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have been dropping on a daily and weekly basis, but they still remain much higher than they were last summer. I'm Tim McGuire.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it. With new ZQL Night Pain. Restful sleep, now with powerful pain relief. ZQL Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZQL Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, February 16th. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services announced on Monday a program to raise awareness and access to COVID-19 vaccines among communities that have faced barriers to receiving healthcare services. DHS announced plans to spend $6.1 million to reach people in both urban and rural areas. Senator Ron Johnson, after he voted to acquit former President Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial on Saturday, said that the January 6th U.S. Capitol insurrection, quote, didn't seem like an armed insurrection to me, end quote. PolitiFact Wisconsin rated the claim pants on fire. Forecast today of mostly cloudy skies with winds up to 10 miles an hour, high today of 15 degrees, low of -8 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for nasty women everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Tuesday to us all. Dom, I got another Rojo update.
Oh, do tell.
More from the big Righty Whitey talk radio interview yesterday. You know, part of that interview took a threatening tone of sorts. Let me read. Brad Reed at the Raw Story reports, Trump-loving Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, on Tuesday threw a brushback pitch at Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell for his rebuke of former President Donald Trump. You remember the speech, Dom, the one he should have given prior to the impeachment vote, not after the acquittal. But according to Politico's Andrew Desiderio Johnson appeared on local radio and warned McConnell about his criticisms of the former president, who was acquitted in the United States Senate over the weekend on the charge of inciting a riot in the U.S. Capitol building. Here's what Rojo said, casting a little shade at the Turtle Man. I think he needs to be a little careful. When the leader of the Senate conference speaks, he has to understand what he says reflects on all of us. And I didn't appreciate his comments. Let's put it that way. Desiderio also reports that Johnson warned fellow Senator Mitch. Let me try this again. The guy from Politico also reports that Johnson warned fellow Senator Mitt Romney that calling witnesses at the impeachment trial and prolonging it would amount to incitement of the president's supporters to potentially commit more acts of violence.
What?
So witnesses would inspire more Trumpster violence. Same guy that goes on the radio and says, but I didn't see any armed insurrectionists.
It wasn't an insurrection.
They stayed inside the lines.
It was more of a breach, not an insurrection.
A little bit more from Brad Reed's piece. Even though McConnell voted to acquit the former president at the conclusion of his impeachment trial, McConnell delivered a blistering statement afterward that suggested Trump could be held criminally responsible for the Capitol riots. Let's hope so, Dom. There is a new lawsuit. There is no question that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of that day, McConnell said. The people who stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and the instructions of their president, and their having that belief was a foreseeable consequence of the growing crescendo of false statements, looking at you, Ron Johnson, conspiracy theories, and reckless hyperbole, which the defeated president kept shouting into the largest megaphone on planet Earth. And I would point out the big lie repeated frequently by Ron Johnson, including at a HISCAC hearing where he looked into voting irregularities. He helped perpetrate. Ron helped perpetrate the big lie.
He's still on it. He's downplaying the insurrection and suggesting that somehow, some way, Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, they're the ones responsible. I mean, this is their logic, quote unquote. This is what Ron Johnson continues to do. This is what Ron Johnson, why he went on 3 righty-whitey talk radio shows yesterday to talk about this. Come on, Ron. 844-967-2789. Call to be patient. I want to throw this one out there. Crudy, I thought very important news today. According to the Washington Post, Spencer Sue, House Homeland Security Chairman, sues Trump and Giuliani, accusing them of inciting the Capitol riot. The chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee on Tuesday filed a federal lawsuit accusing Trump, Giuliani, and 2 extremist groups whose members have been charged in the January 6th storming of the Capitol with illegally conspiring to intimidate and block Congress's certification of the 2020 election. Rep. Benny G. Thompson, a Democrat from Mississippi, alleged in federal court in Washington that Trump and Giuliani's false claims that the election was stolen fomented a raid that violated the Ku Klux Klan Act, an 1871 law enacted after the Civil War to bar violent interference in Congress's constitutional duties. The lawsuit alleges that Trump, Giuliani, and self-styled militia members of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys sought to harass and impede lawmakers and temporarily succeeded, forcing Thompson and others to don gas masks and take cover on the House gallery floor before being evacuated to shelter in the Longworth House office building with more than 200 other representatives, staffers, and relatives. Trump's, quote, gleeful support of violent white supremacists instigated the assault, gravely endangered lawmakers, and encouraged future authoritarianism, Thompson said in a statement. While the majority of Republicans in the Senate abdicated their responsibility to hold the president accountable, we must hold him accountable for the insurrection that he so blatantly planned. Of course, we know Trump was acquitted on Saturday. In a statement, Trump spokesman Jason Miller said this. President Trump has been acquitted in the Democrats' latest impeachment witch hunt, and that's impeachment witch hunt, all capitalized, And the facts are irrefutable. President Trump did not plan, produce, or organize the January 6th rally on the Ellipse. President Trump did not incite or conspire to incite any violence at the Capitol on January 6th. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser must answer questions as to why they rejected additional security and National Guard assistance in the run-up to January 6th. Lawsuits named as defendants Trump solely in his personal capacity: Giuliani, Proud Boys International LLC, and Oath Keepers, addressed to founder Stuart Rhodes. Giuliani, his attorney, and Oath Keeper founder Stuart Rhodes did not immediately respond to requests seeking comment.
Dominic, I've got a little update on that story. CNN legal analyst Ann Milgram predicted the former president, Donald Trump, and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, would be tied up for years in courts over their roles in inciting the deadly January 6th insurrection. The NAACP and Rep. Benny Thompson, as you mentioned, Dom, sued the former president, his personal attorney, and allied groups such as the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, under the Reconstruction-era Ku Klux Klan Act, alleging they conspired to violently interfere with the electoral certification. Here's a quote. What's really interesting is that they're using the statute from 1871. That is really almost barely been used, and saying this is foreseeable. And what the president and Giuliani did was they took a series of actions that were intended to interfere with Congress and incite a riot, Milgram said. It's interesting in part because Benny Thompson, he's a victim. He was at the Capitol on January 6th, as were other members of Congress. So they're saying former President Trump interfered with their ability to do their duty. Trump's attorneys will likely argue he was acting in an official capacity as president, but Milgram said the lawsuit alleges his actions violate his oath of office. Little kicker here, Dom. It's already started to take that on and say that this is not what the president of the United States would do. This is contrary to your oath. And look at all the words and statements that both you and Rudy Giuliani made that were essentially encouraging violence, or at least an end to the electors being able to certify the valid election. So that is a piece of this. That's a legal fight. Milgram doesn't think the case will be resolved anytime soon, and she said the lawsuit could dig up damning new evidence. Some discovery will be needed. I think that you'll start to have questions about what did Donald Trump do? Again, he was both the president and running for re-election. So he's sort of wearing two hats. And I think being in a deposition means Donald Trump needs to hire lawyers. Rudy Giuliani needs to hire lawyers. And this could go on for years as this sort of legal process plays out. I want quick vengeance, justice. It never comes quickly, does it, Tom?
No, seemingly not. My understanding, I don't recall who, a couple other folks were going to join that lawsuit. And let's not forget, there will be some sort of 9/11 style commission investigating as well. And of course, there are the legal investigations going on in DC right now. So there's lots of different sleeves of justice perhaps being pursued in this case. And unfortunately, you're right. None of this is going to end quickly.
Well, most Trump supporters, Tom, sleeveless.
Yeah, with a Confederate tattoo, Crudy, like the guy down in Janesville. 844-967-2789. Talk or text is toll free. Mark from the SAC, you are up. Welcome, sir. What do you got?
Good grief. It's Ron. I don't know what Ron Johnson's been smoking.
Well, nothing with us. We've offered.
But he's got to either be the most corrupt, probably one of the most corrupt politicians we ever had, or one of the stupidest, or it could be both. I mean, it just armed insurrection. What if somebody would have driven a spear through Ron Johnson's guts there during the insurrection? Because that's what some of those guys were carrying. Is that not an arm? It's not a spear.
Well, certainly it is. But when you think of armed insurrection, Mark, don't you think of firearms? And aren't we just blowing this entirely out of proportion? I mean, when they came in, they stayed within the velvet rope lines.
I stabbed a man with a trident.
It's true. I saw it.
Yeah, you're beating a cop to death with a fire extinguisher isn't. Any kind of weapon you pick up is an arm in that kind of case. I mean, it just is asinine. I mean, that
Those were the exact words that Breanna Keeler used to describe Ron Johnson. I thought her words should have been stronger, but she called him asinine.
Well, it's just that, that fortunately, if I decide to call Ron Johnson's office on this, I will not remain FCC compliant because I have to do that on the air. But I'm not that. There's no reason to curb your tongue with Ron Johnson anymore. I mean,
well, they're not going to listen to your message anyways, Mark. So go nuts.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, man. Voicemail's full. Sorry, man. You can try, Mark. And certainly I would encourage everyone, call Ron Johnson. Tell him what you think about his analysis that this really wasn't an insurrection. And if he has these questions, how many guns? I mean, how many, all these things are known. We can find out. I mean, you are.
It's worth a Google, Ron.
You are in the Senate, man. And while you may not have the gavel at the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, which I would wonder if they're going to, whoever has that gavel now, will open
Gary
up an
Peters,
investigation.
Michigan.
That would be perhaps something to look at, since it is Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. It kind of fits nicely into the name of the committee. Perhaps they'll open up investigation, or if they do this 9/11 style, maybe it'll be in that committee. Thanks for the call, Mark. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've got some polling from CBS News. The question I have for you, and perhaps all the listeners, how do you construe the other party? And I set you up before. You now claim yourself a Democrat. You're given a couple shekels to the Democratic Party. So how do you perceive Republicans? And it's going to be a binary choice. They can either be the political opposition or they can be your enemies. How do you perceive Republicans currently, Dom, as your enemies or your political opposition?
Well, that's a great question. I would have to make a distinction. I think, someone like Ron Johnson or someone like Mitch McConnell. I think some of the Oath Keepers and the Nazis. Yeah, those are my enemies. My neighbor up the street who keeps on pulling the lever for the R's because that's what their daddy did. I do not perceive as my enemy. But if you're going to encourage insurrection, if you're going to sit at the table with white supremacist Nazi bastards, that's beyond a political adversary. I mean, those are enemies. We fought World War II. Our grandparents fought the Nazis. We fought fascists. Our grandparents were anti-fascist, and I continue to hold that proud tradition.
Watching the video of the Capitol insurrectionist, I thought more would wear masks, or at least hoods. 844-967-2789. Dom, here's why I asked that question. According to CBS's polling, and I'm going to throw you in the Democratic column, and obviously not a uniform answer for all Republicans. We got a Republican joining us in the happier 4 o'clock happy hour, Dale Schultz. But amongst Democrats, 41% of Democrats see Republicans as their enemies. 59% see Republicans as their political opposition. Now let's flip that around. Amongst Republicans, 57% see Democrats as the opposition, as enemies. And just 43% of Republicans see Democrats as their political opposition. Sort of a difference in motivation, if you know what I'm saying. Come back with us if you're properly motivated, and why wouldn't you be? Dial the phones, 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates, more of your phone calls are next.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the vote, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
America has chosen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to lead our country. Now it's time to get to work. Time to expand healthcare and tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Time to restore our democracy and unify our nation. It's time to put this administration to work for us. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Devil's Advocates.
Darren from Madison tells us he's a former Capitol Police officer.
You can't even compare the two of what happened, yesterday and with Act 10.
Darren, did you, as a Capitol Police officer, ever witness any violence in the Wisconsin State Capitol?
Nope, not at all. It's about as peaceful can be when it comes to peaceful protesting. It was an unlawful assembly. But at the end of the day, there was no violence at the end of the day. It was people coming in and singing.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open, going to them next. You can join us at 844-967-2789. Fred from Cottage Grove, you are next. Welcome, Fred. What do you got for us?
Hey, Fred.
Good afternoon. Hey, you guys are all over the board today.
How does that differ from any other day, Fred?
Well, I know. I can't keep up. So many comments. One thing, like on Tom Harmon today, mentioned, where did that gallows come from?
Someone put some effort into constructing it and then hauling it down to the U.S. Capitol. I mean, they transported it from somewhere. Unless Trump had it in the garage at the White House, you never can tell.
Well, yeah, it had Pence's name on it too, didn't it?
I had not seen that reported, but
I did not see Pence's name on it. I did see a sign on it at one point that said, "This is art." So, I mean, obviously they knew, whoever constructed it, that it was probably not too cool to be, erecting a gallows outside of the Capitol building, but that's neither here nor there.
Eddie, let's get our guillotine and show up at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
Yeah. Now, one question is, since Johnson's not coming on anymore, Rojo, where do we send the spotted cow?
Well, you can send it to my house.
Yes, send it to the studio, man.
Man, this guy's, I mean, he's been out in the cold too long to freeze his brain, but then you think he doesn't have a brain anyway, so it wasn't temperature.
And no, it wasn't the temperature. Actually, Fred, maybe it was. Maybe it's getting a little too hot for him. Maybe some of his relationships within the GOP. They have a lot of issues going on over in that party right now, Fred. We do appreciate the call.
If it's too hot in the kitchen, get out, Rojo. Head back to Las Vegas, baby.
Well, he's being very critical of the now minority leader, Mitch McConnell. I mean, maybe Ron's got some, I don't know,
something compromising
to be in leadership.
Not in the U.S. Senate. He'd have to wait another 20 years. I can't imagine. But what I would say is that the damning words of Mitch McConnell, of course, are in direct contrast to the vote that Ron Johnson cast. In the narrative that Ron Johnson, well, at least Mitch McConnell, if you want to give him any credit, at least Mitch McConnell said something. Ron Johnson's trying to cover it up. Ron Johnson's trying to spin a whole new narrative. Ron Johnson's trying to lay this at Speaker Nancy Pelosi's feet. I mean, a more ridiculous accusation hardly ever cast, but that won't slow down our buddy Ron.
I give zero credit for what Mitch McConnell said. It's not what they say, it's what they do. And what did he do right before the thing he said? He said not guilty.
Well, before he did that, he sent an email to all the Republican caucus members and told them in advance of his intent to acquit the president on a technicality, even though he found him guilty as hell, and then called him out verbally to the chagrin of Rojo.
844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, you're next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, what do you expect him to do when he doesn't have Hunter Biden to kick around anymore? I mean, his dad's now president, and there's no reason to keep attacking him. I mean, this guy, he's always barking up the wrong tree. He's nuts. I used to think Bob Caston was the biggest embarrassment as a United States senator. I really did. You know, the only thing bad about it, well, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's bad, but there were some allegations about how he liked to dress when he was riding around in Washington, but that's another story. But did you see who else also a part of the insurrection? Roger Stone's bodyguards, a couple of them.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? You know, and this was all supposed to be anybody but Trump supporters. Who's a bigger sycophant for Donald Trump than Roger Stone?
Well, no
Ron
one.
Johnson.
He commuted his sentence, and then he pardoned the man. I think there was a little quid pro quo going on there.
Well, yeah, and then the guy shows up with bodyguards who end up being Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, you know, pick your Nazi, and end up being part of the insurrection or the breach, as the senator from Wisconsin would say, Dick.
Yeah, it was just a little skirmish. There was nothing really going on there.
Yeah, it's shameful. I always hate it, and thanks for the call, Dick. I always hate it when I wake up in the morning and I see, you know, Ron Johnson all over the national news. Again, what is Wisconsin known for? Sports teams, right? Mass murderers and bad governance. And we got a lot of that with the Republicans in this state, not certainly including Ron Johnson.
Well, the good news is, Tom, it gives us something to talk about every day on the radio.
You know, there's other things to talk about. I wouldn't mind. You have to dig a little harder to not talk about the terrible governance, you know, coming out of the state of Wisconsin. As the petri dish that this state has become since you and I have been doing the show, Crudy, and what happens in Wisconsin is what's going to happen in the rest of the country, man. You know, I used to think like all the cool stuff would happen on the coast, East Coast, West Coast, and, you know, come into the middle of the Midwest. We'd be the last ones to get it. Now, our bad governance, man, we are number one in bad governance. We export that all over the country.
Yeah, but all the cool stuff happening on the coast, like legalized marijuana, expansion of Medicaid, high-speed rail. We're getting left behind in all of those categories, despite the will of the Wisconsin voters.
Yeah, but come on now. We are the only state in the union that has first offense drunk driving is not a criminal offense. So we got that going for us.
Which is nice. 844-967-2789. You know, I tried yesterday, talked about, you know, who the Packers should pick up in the free agency market.
Oh, yes.
See, you weren't impressed with that topical decision-making on my behalf either.
Yeah, didn't read up on the sports pages, man. Normally I'd try to be a little more prepared, but I don't have much to offer in that regard.
What
Although
regard?
I think the Bucks are going to be holding the Milwaukee Bucks are going to have some people in the forum tonight for the game.
You mean fans?
Yeah.
Now, they're a little off this year, aren't they? I'm not a big NBA fan, but they're not playing great. They're not winning the Eastern Conference, are they?
I'm not clear of the record. They're playing some decent ball. I guess got done with a road trip. Won a few, lose a few, strikes and gutters. You know how it goes.
No, not really. I don't watch the NBA. I mean, I know they throw the ball in the hoop. I'm a basketball fan. I just, don't like it when they do it for fun and profit.
You're not a basketball player. I played with you. I can acknowledge and confirm that.
Really? You? I mean, sure, fast dribbling. You're like a skeeter on the court with no purpose. Just dribbling around. As long as you don't have to shoot or rebound, you're a hell of a player.
Oh, man, drain them from the outside.
Come back with us. Sports Talk Live continues.
No.
We got a fine guest. He is Dale Schultz, former Republican Wisconsin Senate leader. He's a friend of ours. Political opposition. I'm going to put him in that category. For those of you listening on AM 950, stick around. Matt McNeil is next. For the rest of you listening nationwide, all around the world, the Devil's Advocates. We continue. The 4 o'clock happy hour starts right now. Three great stations have teamed up to bring you one tremendous impact. Chicago's Progressive Voice, WCPT 820 AM, Minnesota's Progressive Voice, AM 950, and Devil Radio 92.7 Madison. Representing the best independent progressive talk stations in cities in America. We partnered to offer one affordable advertising package that can cover the Great Lakes region. Now your company or cause can reach our highly engaged, combined monthly audiences of over 250,000 listeners, plus our combined worldwide streams and digital footprints at one low price. Local service, creative, and ad production available for an impact second to none. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-8255.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG Madison, always streaming at devilradio927.com.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. The first of what is expected to be a flurry of lawsuits against former President Donald Trump has been filed. AP Sagar Magani has this.
Trump's Senate impeachment acquittal is expected to lead to a wave of litigation over the insurrection now that he's lost some legal protections as an ex-president. House Homeland Security Committee Chair Benny Thompson's suit accuses Trump of inciting the insurrection and conspiring with his lawyer and extremist groups to keep Congress from certifying the presidential election results. Several other lawmakers are expected to join the suit, which was brought under a law known as the Ku Klux Klan Act. It bans violence or intimidation meant to keep members of Congress or other federal officials from carrying out constitutional duties. Sagar Magani, Washington.
At least 14 people, including 3 young children and their grandmother, are dead in incidents related to the massive storm and brutal cold that's gripped much of the country. Texas, hardest hit, power out to some 4 million homes and businesses at a time the thermometer is closer to zero than freezing. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner criticizes state power companies for poorly managing the outages.
For people who are without power, they don't care who's in control, who's in charge. They don't care. The only thing people want is that they want the heat in their homes.
The companies say they will restore power to those who have had no electricity for the better part of a day, but that means a similar number of homes and businesses will then lose power. 3 other deaths and 10 injuries were caused by a tornado that hit a coastal area of North Carolina late last night. Brunswick County Emergency Services Director Ed Conroe.
This is going to be take a lot of hard work, effort between cleanup, rebuilding, and getting the families back to a normal state of life.
Sluggish day on Wall Street. The Dow closed with a 64-point gain. This is AP News.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it. With new ZzzQuil Night Pain. Restful sleep, now with powerful pain relief. ZzzQuil Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZzzQuil Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When it comes to computers, Madison Computer Works has been the leader in computer help, service, and support for more than 35 years. Our friendly techs have the expertise to help you choose the right computer for your needs. We make it easy to get a new computer by moving your data, reinstalling programs, and setting up your printers and email for you. Our competitive pricing and awesome tech support make moving to a new computer painless and affordable. Whether servicing your old computer or buying a new one, we'll help you do it right. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK, that's 608-819-8255, or go to darnwi.com.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's darnwi.com. That's darnwi.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, February 16th. On Monday, the State Department of Health Services reported that more than 976,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine had been administered in the state, with 715,375 Wisconsin residents having received at least one dose, or roughly 12.3% of the state population. As of Monday, more than 240,000 people have received both shots in Wisconsin, completing their vaccination series. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources will allow hunters to kill 200 wolves in the last week of February, even as the state appeals a judge's order requiring the winter hunting season. The DNR will issue up to 4,000 permits based on the recommended quota of 200 wolves. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Tuesday election day. Joe Biden coming to town, 4 o'clock happy hour. And I'm happy to announce we got a fine guest waiting live via phone. He is former Republican Wisconsin Senate leader, Dale Schultz. Dale's a friend of ours. Dale, welcome back. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, you're entirely welcome, fellas. I always enjoy being on the show.
Well, Dale, it's been about 10 years since Act 10. And about a half an hour ago, the former governor of the state of Wisconsin put up a propaganda-style video describing the Act 10 and the uprising resulting therefrom as a riot in the Wisconsin state capitol. And Dale, you were there, I suspect, for much of that uprising. Do you have memories of a riot, sir? Is that how you remember what happened?
No, I don't have memories of a riot. What I have memories of was a incredibly large demonstration of fear, angst, frustration by a lot of my Wisconsin friends and neighbors. I mean, I'd come to Madison and I'd be shocked at the number of people from my district who were in Madison lending their presence to their dissatisfaction of what was going on in the legislature. To be sure, there were some incidences that I think people could say were less than peaceful, but we certainly did not have the kind of situation we had in Washington, D.C. here on the 6th, where 3 policemen wound up dead, 2 suicides after the event, 1 during the event, and I know 134 or 36 officers injured. Never had anything like that. For the most part, the people who came to Madison went past the fire limits for the Capitol, I'm sure. But every effort was made to protect the building. I mean, they hung signs, but they used blue painter's tape so as to not ruin the finishes. They had squads of people who went around to the bathrooms to try to keep them clean. I don't even remember it smelling bad, but it was loud. There's no doubt about that. And I'll never forget standing in Mike Ellis's office, looking out the window down State Street and seeing that surge of people from one end of State Street down to the Capitol pour up and surround the Capitol. I mean, 115,000 people were there several days. And as a kid who grew up in Madison, went to school at Madison Central, just a block away from the Capitol, went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I was used to seeing big crowds protesting the Vietnam War or for civil rights, but never in my life had I seen anything like that. It was truly, gripping and emotional. I remember well my colleagues' anxiety and grabbing each other and going off to pray, holding hands. And all I could think of was, I'm not sure the Lord is with us on this one. And, there has to be a better way, and we need to find a way to compromise and come together and treat everybody with dignity. And of course, I wasn't successful. I failed, for which I think back on occasion and feel badly about, but I tried, and I'm really grateful for all the people over the years who've taken the time to stop me and thank me for the effort.
Well, Dale, we appreciate the effort. We appreciate you coming around. Here in the state of Wisconsin, sir, I feel like we've been a precursor for what has happened on the national political stage. How much of the divide and conquer politics of Scott Walker, it obviously had true electoral impact. Walker won a recall. He won 3 elections overall. But how much of this sort of poisoned the well of goodwill in governance here in the state of Wisconsin, to your opinion, Dale?
Well, I don't think there's any question Wisconsin was a precursor of what has happened nationally. Wisconsin was the laboratory for big money, buying itself the best government it could. And it was truly sad. It shocked people. They didn't quite know how to cope with it. The messaging was extraordinary. My father used to tell me that a lie makes it twice around the world before the truth gets its pants on. And there was a lot of that there. I remember the stories about millions of dollars of damage while Senator Fred Risser and I both served on the state capitol and executive residence board. And that was just a flat out, bald-faced lie. There was, I think the most expensive item was $25,000 worth of repair to the grass on the Capitol grounds. But anytime you put that amount of density of people up on the square in the spring, it's likely going to be, damaged. But people at the time said we actually expected more damage. We did more damage to the building when Scott Walker contracted out for an Illinois firm to replace Wisconsin workers to clean the floor when they wound up damaging it. That wound up costing more money. And, but the reality is they conspired for a month before they dropped the bomb. Those were Scott Walker's words. And I look back over 10 years, and it's hard for me to identify much of anything where Wisconsin is better off. That's not to say there weren't things that needed fixing or that people didn't have legitimate grievances. Look, I readily understood that state workers needed to contribute something. It wasn't easy or popular for me to go to places where there were a lot of state workers and say that, but I felt it, and I appreciated the fact that they at least appreciated me having the courage to come and talk to them, and that they were receptive to listening to my ideas about a compromise. Unfortunately, the governor's real goal was breaking unions. And it may sound strange for me as a guy who probably faced more union-backed candidates than any legislator in the building. At least I think I'm in the top echelons to not be cheering, but I think I'm wise enough, and the people I represent are wise enough to know that when it's a lose-lose or a win-lose proposition, I should say, and people are stripped of their dignity, it isn't going to go well. And, the number one thing that I look back on is, the educational system, which we were known for nationally, the university system and K-12, has just gone through hell the last 10 years. Fortunately, we have a good man in charge of the university now. But, we're off between 30 and 40% of the number of high school kids who used to sign up to be teachers. We have so denigrated the job of being a teacher in Wisconsin and across the nation that it really is sad, because we need the best and the brightest. I'm grateful that a lot of really good quality people hung around and stuck it out for quite a while. But clearly, education is not better off for all these efforts.
Dale, obviously, Scott Walker started by going after the public sector unions, eventually got around to right to work and sticking it to the private sector unions. And we all know, and through hindsight, if you didn't know, we all know now, it weakened, it kneecapped the foot soldiers of the Democratic Party, and perhaps some of the financial instrument that used to support Democratic candidates. But Dale, a decade later, did you think you would ever see Republicans challenging democracy itself and the peaceful transition of power, sir?
No. I am absolutely mortified with the things that I've seen in Washington, D.C. I never thought a Wisconsin politician would vote to throw out the votes of the people in states. I think the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel hit the nail on the head when they called out those who did and said they ought to resign. For people who thump the Constitution and claim to be conservative, it's just unthinkable. And then to watch the trial this last week and watch Mitch McConnell, after voting not to convict, stand up and give one of the most stirring speeches I've ever seen, did better than any of the Democratic impeachment managers. And people just scratching their heads and wondering, are we living in an alternate reality? And for heaven's sakes, how do we cut the drama, get back to solving problems that affect every one of our friends and our neighbors, and certainly in many cases, members of our families. And, I'm glad in Wisconsin now we have a situation where we have a governor who is talking to the legislature. They don't always get along, but there at least is some discussion, and he's trying to manage in an intelligent way, and I think getting relatively good marks. And I have to say that President Biden's popularity, I think, is what it is because he's doing what and I think virtually everybody in this country who isn't wedded to this crazy kind of politics we have now, want done, which is to address our problems and get something done. There are an awful lot of people who are hurting and suffering, and we need leadership, and we need to come together to get through this.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We got a fine guest. He's a friend of ours. He is Dale Schultz. He is a former Republican Wisconsin Senate leader in the great state of Wisconsin. I guess that's redundant, Dale, but we got you for a few more minutes. If you'd kindly stick around, we'll come back. More Devil's Advocates, more Dale Schultz on the other side.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring? At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
We did it. All across this nation, voters like you turned out in record numbers to elect Joe Biden. Now, it's time to come together to address the issue that matter most, tackling climate change, expanding access to healthcare, ensuring racial justice, and putting Americans back to work. Text ACT to 668366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Hold.moveon.org not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hey, Rocker, I heard you have a rye whiskey.
I do, Jimmy. Rocker Rye Whiskey. The mash is a high rye with a touch of malted barley that makes it yummy.
And Rocker Rye Whiskey is dedicated to the Madison music scene?
It sure is, Jimmy. You can read the story on the back of the bottle at any of these fine locations. Star Liquor, Woodman's, Trixie's Liquor, Vic Pierce, Miller & Sons in Verona, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, and enjoy Rocker Rye Whiskey at the Lazy Oaf Lounge and Sal's Dark Horse. Find out more at rockervodka.com.
If it isn't effective, then what's the point? At Verdure, we offer Delta 8 products, the newest cannabinoid derived from hemp plants. Our variety of edibles and smokables blow away any CBD treats you might have tried. Get our yummy Delta Pop Steel in 5 fruitful flavors. Ease away your daily blues with these relaxing lollipops. Go to 21offers.com and use the coupon 927POPS to save 10%, courtesy of Verdure. Must be 21 years or older.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dale Schultz, former Republican Wisconsin Senate leader, joining us on the phone. Dale, thanks for sticking around. We certainly appreciate it. I want to get a sense of how you, as a former Republican leader here in the state of Wisconsin, how you define your own Republicanism / conservatism, and if you think that definition holds true to what the party is post Donald Trump.
Well, my feeling about politics was that the job of the legislator was to go out and listen to people and then to reflect those feelings and wishes on the floors of the Senate and the Assembly, and to listen to my colleagues at the same time who were trying to do the same thing. After listening to each other, the goal was to try to create a solution to a problem that affected more or less a broad spectrum of people across the state, and that's what the government was meant to be all about. This notion suddenly that the only thing you're to do is to be a servant for a bunch of rich people and to follow party leaders, I think is atrocious. I never had a hard time remembering what my priorities were. And I think most people don't. They know what they owe their Lord. They know what they owe their constituents, their family, and then lastly, their own personal interest as a legislator. And I think if you keep things in that order, you're going to do fairly well. Now, there are some things I did over the years people would consider, maybe a little bit progressive. Some people would say some of the things I did over the year was a little bit conservative. But you know what? When you have the opportunity to come together and listen with your friends and neighbors and work out solutions, there's the potential to not only learn something, but to teach somebody else something. And of course, if that's to work, then of course you have to recognize that maybe your philosophy in life or your ideas aren't the only ones out there, and they're not all the best. And, that's kind of my approach to life and to government. And I would say along with that, to remember to have respect for everyone. And now I'm human. I made mistakes along the way, but that was always the idea. And I think the fact that I got the votes that I got in election after election is pretty much testament to the fact that that's an approach that works. But for ideologues who've gone down the rabbit hole and believe in conspiracy theories, my guess is that is maybe not the best way to win them over. But what makes me really sad is the Republican Party used to have principles that I think were truly American and were reflected in our leaders like Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Ike Eisenhower, Tommy Thompson. And suddenly now, we have become devotees of a failed talk show host and conspiracy theories like QAnon. And it just makes me ill because I don't see how any of this serves people's interest. And I'm just so grateful that there are still some members in the Republican Party nationwide, in Congress, and here in Wisconsin who are standing up and making their voice heard and saying we can and must do better, and we must get back to the competition of ideas and do everything we can to compete for the hearts and minds of every single person in this state and in this country, regardless of their religion, their color, or their sexual orientation. To do anything less, I think, is a gross disservice to the public and to the office and the ideals to which I think our founding fathers and mothers, hope to inspire us to carry on.
Dale, during the insurrection, lots of white nationalists, Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, name your pick, Nazis, were part of this. How much of an issue is racism and white supremacy and white nationalism within the Republican Party, in your opinion, sir?
Well, I have to confess that I hadn't seen a lot of this before, but in this last year, it has been jarring, to say the least, to watch our president draw false equivalencies to a bunch of people that are disgusting, are vile, and in no way are comparable to folks on the left. Now, I've had strong disagreements and shouting matches with people on the left, but the blatant hatred of people and trying to paint them as something they're not, I just think is wrong. And it certainly isn't helping to solve any of our problems. It is just sickening for me to have to sit there and listen to President Trump talk about the good people on both sides. I'm sorry, I don't have any problem saying it. There are no good Nazis. And as a full-blooded German, it embarrasses me to think that my heritage will forever be linked with those kind of people. And it's just sad that we have, so many of these groups like the Boogaloo Boys and Oath Keepers that people can't find it in their hearts to call out for the sickness they spread and the harm that they produce. These are the people these are the leaders of the insurrection that hurt or injured, this 134 police and resulted in the deaths there on the 6th. And I don't know how those people have the gall to put up "I back the blue" signs right next to Donald Trump. It is the most illogical, crazy thing I have ever seen. Law enforcement wants real backing. It wants understanding. It doesn't believe that it's perfect, but they do, look for some tolerance and guidance, and I think they deserve it. And pretending that you back the blue when you're willing to go out and hurt or maim sworn law enforcement officers, I think is just disgusting.
Thank you, Dale Schultz, Republican friend of ours. Stick around. Laura Ford Harris from the Boys and Girls Club.
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to darnwi.com.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARN.
Good evening. Good afternoon, Laura. Can you hear me okay?
That's DARN.
Yes. Hi.
Excellent. Good afternoon. We're going to be on the air here in about 4 minutes, 3.5, and we'll be right with you, okay?
Okay, fantastic. Did you get my information?
Did you get her information? Yeah. Oh, I'm Jimmy. I'm just the producer. He's Crudy over there. And Dom is in the empty. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Of people are without power in sub-freezing temperatures. Travel's dangerous because of icing, and at least 14 deaths are now reported. There have been blackouts and rolling outages for millions, particularly hard-hit Texas. In Houston, Fire Chief Samuel Pena says dozens of people risked their lives trying to stay warm.
Turning on the vehicles to try to stay warm. If you do that, do not do so inside your garages, even if the garage door is open. That carbon monoxide can quickly fill up that space.
Congressman Benny Thompson, a Mississippi Democrat, has sued Donald Trump, accusing him of inciting the deadly insurrection at the Capitol last month. Stocks were mixed, the Dow on the plus side. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it. With new ZQL Night Pain. Restful sleep, now with powerful pain relief. ZQL Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZQL Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, February 16th. It is Election Day in Wisconsin. Polls are open until 8 p.m. this evening. There is one statewide race on the ballot, the race for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, along with a variety of local elections depending on where you live. Governor Tony Evers will give his 2021-2023 budget address this evening at 7 p.m. The address will be virtual and will include a variety of economic investment proposals to assist the state in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. President Joe Biden is coming to Milwaukee tonight for a town hall forum held by CNN at the Pabst Theater, airing at 8 p.m. Forecast today of mostly cloudy skies with winds up to 10 miles an hour. High today of 15 degrees, low of -8 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour. It's rolling along. Want to thank our most recent guest, the fine one, a friend of ours, former Republican Wisconsin Senate Leader Dale Schultz. We'll keep checking in with Dale all year long, and from here till he stops taking my phone calls. And Dominic, we welcome a new fun guest right now, live via Zoom. She is Laura Ford Harris. She is the Chief Development Officer, Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. Laura, welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well,
Thanks
Laura,
for joining us, Laura.
You've got a big event this weekend. The Boys and Girls Club have a big fundraiser. You're going to help us preview it. Hearts for Helping. Tell us all about this big event, please.
Absolutely. Dane County, are you ready? Now join us this Saturday, February 20th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. This is the Boys and Girl Scouts Hearts for Helping live from Dane County. It's our annual fundraising event where you'll have a wonderful live broadcast event with a mix of exciting celebrity appearances, Community Heroes Awards. There's a youth talent show with a $5,000 grand prize up front.
Wait. Let me slow you down right there, Laura. Tell me more.
When you say youth, like how old is youth?
Are Peter Pan-like characters allowed to enter late, sir? Ma'am?
Not this time. However, if you were between the ages of 13 and 24, you could have submitted an entry. It had to be about 2 minutes. We had a group of judges who went through the 30 or more submissions and narrowed it down to 5. So we've got 5 youth from this Madison, Dane County area that are going to be singing and dancing and playing the trombone through till someone walks away with $5,000 in cash.
Laura, that's a lot of pressure on young performers, but I can't wait. I understand you also have a wonderful band that is going to play live from the Sylvee. Tell us about the musical entertainment, if you would.
Oh my goodness, we have so much entertainment. Old Soul Society is going to be joining us and broadcasting, as you said, live from the Sylvee. It's the first time they've ever performed live on that stage. And it was so exciting to be in that venue and just see what it looks like since, no one's really been out and anywhere in such a long time. In addition to Old Soul Society, which is a local Dane County Madison group, you'll also be able to hear the song stylings from hip hop icon Doug E. Fresh. Now, I could try and beatbox, but I don't think it would. So, Doug E. Fresh is going to be there. He's going to do a few songs with us. We'll also be joined by Claudia Jordan, who was on The Apprentice, a different talk show host. Pooch Hall, who you may know from The Game, or Ray Donovan, if you're a Ray Donovan fan. Brian J. White, who's been an actor in a variety of movies and a variety of different programs on TV. So they're actually going to be joining us live also.
Now, how does the fundraising aspect of this work? Are we looking for people to pay to virtually attend, or how are you going to raise the money?
Well, that's a wonderful question. Thank you so much. So what's amazing this time is through some generosity of some of our donors, we're going to be able to open this platform up where everyone can view it online. While you're online and you see amazing things, you hear what the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County is doing here in the community, you can make a donation. Now, if you want a VIP experience, you can pay for our $75 VIP experience, which will also get you the opportunity to go into a VIP meeting room with our celebrity guests. In addition, you'll get an amazing gourmet box that's being put together by Metcalf's with some charcuterie and some wine delivered directly to your home, with all those proceeds going to help support the programming that we do at the Boys and Girls Club.
Well, I like to hear about the victuals. I like to eat.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. But you know what? I can't give it all away. You need to go ahead and register at the Boys and Girls Club website, where you can register for the event at bgcdc.org/H for H, Hearts for Healthy.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a very enthusiastic guest. She is Laura Ford Harris. She is the Chief Development Officer with the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. Laura, let's talk a little bit about what the proceeds will help to accomplish. What's the Boys and Girls Club doing for local youth in our community?
Right. Well, since this pandemic, almost a year ago now, the Boys and Girls Club has been on the front line of supporting the community. We started off with raising funds with Selfless Ambition and the United Way of Dane County, and raised $3 million, which had been distributed to over 62 organizations. And we kicked that off giving away $425,000 to organization, grassroots organization out there helping families and individuals when this first started. Since then, we have been on the forefront. Just last week, we donated 250,000 masks to MMSD. We have a family meals to go program where we've been feeding families and individuals and students since last March. So all of those resources, all the money we raise goes back into us serving the community.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Laura Ford Harris, the Chief Development Officer for the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County, our guest via the Zoom. Laura, thanks for joining us. I always am concerned for organizations like yours during times like this. How has the pandemic impacted traditional quote unquote kind of fundraising and business of nonprofits such as yours?
I think everyone can think about a nonprofit or a small business near and dear to their heart and understand how they've been impacted by the pandemic and closures and people being afraid and actually being restricted as to where they can go. Since last March, our clubs were initially closed, and then we reopened with a strategic plan in partnership with Public Health Madison and Dane County, following all of their guidelines. So, people are used to coming into the Boys and Girls Club and seeing bustling groups of kids running around playing sports, weekends, and having a variety of activities, and they've been quiet. The most we've been able to have in our clubs at this point is about 30 students, and that's in our Taft and Sun Prairie Club, where we normally would have hundreds of students in. Wow. So fundraisers are critical to being able to keep those Boys and Girls Clubs open. And we pivoted to address the needs of the community. So not just, serving students in the club, but we've been doing our meals program, our family meals to go. We raised funds through our Move for BGC event last spring that helped feed first responders, youth and families, and provide digital programming. Last summer, we were one of the only, if not the only, in the community to provide summer internships. We had 141 students who we placed in jobs throughout the Dane County region. So it's programs like that that we do in the community. No one has to pay anything to participate in those programs, those activities that we're doing. So these fundraisers fund all of those kinds of initiatives.
And Laura, the ability for your organization to pivot like that and address, the very specific needs is a testament to your organization, certainly. You mentioned some of the fundraisers that you did and the funding that you provided to other organizations. Mm-hmm. And I think, during times like these, a global pandemic, there's a lot of reassessing going on in people's lives, what's important to them and what they want to do. How are you seeing? Are you seeing more people getting involved with organizations like yours or starting their own organizations in order to try to assist and help their neighbors?
Yes, Madison, you are so generous, so extremely generous. And it's because of friends and neighbors and supporters like your radio listeners that we're still here, that we're still open. Boys and Girls Club and our president and CEO, Michael Johnson, immediately the day that, the announcements came out about closing because of the pandemic, we started to look at what could we do in this community to help others? What were others going to need to be safe, to have food security, to have program, to have access to the resources that they needed? So the Madison community has so stepped up. People have contacted us. They're helping with their time, their talent, and their treasure. And that is so important to nonprofits across the community, nonprofits that you believe in and that are providing that grassroots level and more extensive support to the needs of families and individuals in this community.
Laura, how do you think the kids, the participants, are holding up? These are tough times. And I think we sometimes forget that this is affecting our kids as well. Now, I always thought of the Boys and Girls Club as a place where teenagers went to stay out of trouble. Mm-hmm. So during these trying times for so many of our local youth, how does the Boys and Girls Club keep them engaged, keep them out of trouble, if you will?
Right. The Boys and Girls Club provides digital programming. So if you go to our website, we have different activities. And even during the summer months, we provided kits that you could pick up from the Boys and Girls Club and take them home and do them with your family. So there were science kits. One of our team members teaches card games. And so, we're trying to address that connection with members online. We know that everyone is sometimes a little zoomed out, but we also try to provide engaging, fun activities. So we have a Keystone Club that's focused on community service, where we're partnering with the Jewish Federation of Madison. We have a Rocket Force Club, which is a virtual club where it's a, what's it called? A video game where, you can compete against other kids. So we're trying to address those needs that kids have, that youth and that even families have about engaging. The clubs are open after school at Taft, Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. And if you come to the Boys and Girls Club, you're going to have a hot meal when you come in. On Wednesdays, you can come in if you're a teen, and you can be there from 12 to 6, from 12:30 to 6, excuse me. So we're still open, smaller numbers, but we're still there, willing and able to provide a resource, provide support for academics in the club settings. And that's only one aspect of it. We've got our Avid Tops programs, which are still going on in the school, still providing support to students, in addition to our 600 college students that are spread across the country. So we are still advocating and working directly with students on a daily basis.
Laura Ford Harris, Chief Development Officer of the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. Let's tell them again about the fundraiser. How did they get involved this Saturday, 7 to 8:30?
You want to go ahead and tune in to channel 3000, Madison 365, and look for Hearts for Helping live from Dane County. Go to bgcdc.org, H4H, to sign up, and we'll look forward to seeing you there soon.
Laura, are you going to play a part? Are you the master of ceremonies? I mean, you are a passionate young lady. I like you.
Thank you. No, I'm the behind the scene ones. I'm holding the door. That's it. That's all I got to do.
And what
a great team.
And what part does our pal Michael Johnson play this weekend?
You know what? Michael Johnson is always that motivation and inspiration just beyond the surface. He's got us all hyped up and excited, but you'll have to tune in to see what Michael's going to do this year.
I suspect he may play a part in the presentation. Laura, thank you so much for coming around and telling our fine audience about the big fundraiser. It's important stuff. Laura Ford Harris, Chief Development Officer, Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. Laura, hope you have a tremendous success this Saturday night.
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting us.
You are quite welcome. Folks, you're all invited to stick around. One last segment of the Devil's Advocates radio show for the day. Phone lines open. Dial them up. 844-967-2789.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted?
Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch Max Inc. Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. Max Inc. Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
3 great stations have teamed up to bring you one tremendous impact. Chicago's Progressive Voice, WCPT 820 AM, Minnesota's Progressive Voice, AM 950, and Devil Radio 92.7 Madison. Representing the best independent progressive talk stations in cities in America, we partnered to offer one affordable advertising package that can cover the Great Lakes region. Now your company or cause can reach our highly engaged, combined monthly audiences of over 250,000 listeners, plus our combined worldwide streams and digital footprints at one low price. Local service, creative, and ad production available. For an impact second to none, call Devil Radio today at 608-819-8255.
Understanding the needs and goals of your improvement project is something my family has done for 3 generations, and that doesn't stop when times get tough. Al Bachman here. At Bachman Construction, we've seen it all. Everything from a simple back patio to moving historic homes a quarter of a mile down the road. Give Bachman Construction a call and let us know how we can create a better value for your space today.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have one foot in tomorrow.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, it's your last chance. Pick up the phone. Hit us up right now. Toll free 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one indeed, Laura Ford Harris, Chief Development Officer, Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. I'm glad Michael Johnson introduced us. Laura, very dynamic. I like her.
Great interview. Look forward to checking that out. Was that Saturday night?
Saturday, 7 to 8:30 live show. You're all invited. Give if you can, but it's not required to play a part in a big virtual talent show, live music, big event. And Dominic, I've got some breaking news.
Oh no.
Donald Trump has broken his silence to cast shade at Mitch McConnell.
The guy.
Here is the statement according to CNN.
No. Do we have to? I mean, do we have to?
It's a short statement.
Okay.
Mitch is a dour, sullen, and unsmiling political hack. And if Republican senators are going to stay with him, they will not win again. He will never do what needs to be done or what is right for our country. Where necessary and appropriate, I will back primary rivals who espouse making America great again and our policy of America first. We want brilliant, strong, thoughtful, and compassionate leadership. And if we can't find that, we'll elect guys like Tommy Tupperville. Last part's my little editorialization. So anyways, Trump has broken his silence. I preferred him as the, weak, silent type.
Oh, he's terrible. And anybody who supports him even now, you're terrible as well. And what was he? What do you say? Not unsmiling? Is that a thing? Unsmiling?
He's a dour, sullen, unsmiling political hack.
Non-smiling? I think it'd be non-smiling. I'm more of a non-smiling.
Is that a problem? I mean, I've seen Mitch McConnell mostly when he's up to malfeasance. I've seen him smile. He's capable of smiling. Turtles can smile. You know, I had another story I found during the course of the last hour, Dom. This one regarding Rojo.
Oh, no.
And Wisconsinite
Mitch
sentiment.
McConnell, Ron Johnson, Scott Walker. God, please save us all.
Here it is. 60% of Wisconsin voters support replacing Senator Ron Johnson. 60% want Ron gone. Quick paragraph. In a new data for Progress and Move On state poll, our partners, moveon.org, 60% of likely Wisconsin voters said they would support replacing Senator Ron Johnson after his role in inciting the Capitol insurrection riots that resulted in 5 deaths. Well, you didn't even think they were riotous, Don.
More of a breach.
A little bit more here. This majority includes 60% of independent voters, 81% of Democratic voters. What's wrong with the other 19% of you? And nearly 2 in 5 likely Republican voters, 39% of Republicans want Rojo gone. And the 60% of the Trumpsters, they like Rojo just fine.
Yeah.
Their
Yes,
kind
they
of guy, right, Tom?
Absolutely.
So Wisconsin overwhelmingly would like to move beyond Ron Johnson.
Excellent. Recall? No, 844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike, you are next. Welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Hey, Pizza.
Oh, hell yeah. He would have been recalled, if it wasn't for COVID last time. I had it all set up. That anybody could run. But, Dale Schultz is living proof in Wisconsin of what I've always known, that the only good Republican is one that's not in office. And apparently that's the rule now more than anything else. I mean, if you're in office as a Republican, it's because you're a scumbag, you're a scoundrel, you're corrupt, you're willing to cheat the people and go against the Constitution.
Well, Mike, if you got integrity or morals, they'll primary your ass. Just ask Dale Schultz.
Well, they don't have to worry. There's not much integrity or morals left in that party. I mean, I don't know who's left, but they all supported Trump all the way through this. Come on, you can't run away from this. This is your game, guys. And moving center right is not the way to go. But there's a reason why Ron Johnson didn't feel threatened. Those were his guys, man. That was his team. His stormtroopers came to the Capitol. Of course he's not afraid. They know who he is.
I'm not clear that most of the Trumpsters know who Rojo
clear
is.
Either. I mean, Jenna Ryan, the realtor from Texas, I'm not clear that she would know Ron Johnson and know the difference between Ron Johnson or Mike Pence or Bernie Sanders. But Mike, I got to ask you. We talked briefly about this earlier. How do you view the Republicans, or perhaps someone with a political persuasion not quite yours, as a political opponent, or do you view them as an enemy?
Oh man, are you kidding me? They're definitely an enemy. This isn't politics for most of us. This is personal, man. Taking away our rights, making us suffer, making us work for low wage, no health care, and everything that they deny us, we pay for them. No, I can't stand these guys, man. They'll never, ever get me to believe that they're even human at this point. No, they are the enemy, always have been.
Are
Michael,
you saying they're the enemy of the people?
Hey, man, yes, they are the enemy of the people. Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call, man. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, let's not forget today. It's election day in the great state of Wisconsin. You can still vote until 8:00 in the Joe Biden CNN town hall. But I would point out, state superintendent, the only statewide race, to head up the Department of Public Instruction, Tony Evers' old job. And I can tell you who did not vote for, predicated on the social media postings of Scotty Walker and David Blaska. The wanker posted, voted for Deborah Kerr this morning for state superintendent of public instruction. She's a proven reformer who wants all kids in government run or private schools. There's the kicker, or private schools to do well. She's the school choice champion. And there's a picture. He posted a picture of her and him. She's sitting to his left.
There's the death nail. Darren from Madison, you will have the last word today. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Darren.
Hey, gentlemen. Last word of the day. I love it. This is, yeah, I know you guys have used me with the Capitol stuff. I don't know. I just heard it the other day on the radio. It's funny how you guys use me. But anyways, my question is this. Yeah, I already saw today that there was a Democrat, I can't remember his name, that filed like a civil case against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Is there any way that there can be any type of, class action lawsuit? Basically, everybody that was in the Capitol that day, they're going to, just get on this lawsuit and sue them for, for PTSD, not PTSD, but basically the after effect of it. You got people
violating the KKK Act. Specifically, Darren, yes, my understanding is at least 2 other folks have joined that lawsuit, and perhaps there will be more. Hopefully there will be.
Darren, sorry, it was a short last word. Want to thank our fine guests. They included Jeff Mandell from Law Forward, Dale Schultz, former Republican Wisconsin State Senate leader, Laura Ford Harris from the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. Don't forget their big fundraiser this Saturday night. Now stick around, our pal Earl Ingram, then Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, then Tony Evers and Busted Pencils and Joe Biden.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of